created some interest here in your travels, and I got some questions for you. And these are going to be rapid-fire questions, but I know that you're a spontaneous thinker, and you've obviously had enough experiences to be able to answer these pretty easily. So here's my first question for you.
Before we do that,
all right,
I'd like to let my viewers, the people on my video channel, know who this is. This is my good friend Mark. I've known him for 40 years almost. Anything you want to say about this? I've known him, and he's moved away, and I'm visiting him in his home in North Carolina.
all right. Thank you for the introduction. That was nice of you. So, Bobby, you've been traveling for a little while. What, since January?
Yeah, January.
Okay, so what do you think is your most memorable experience to date in this van?
In this van. Well, it was a Saturday night. I was in Tarpon Springs. It was about 9:30, and I was resting on a bed listening to the band across the street, and all of a sudden, the biggest boom I've ever heard in my life. Underneath my van, a firework blew up.
Whoa.
And my ears rang for weeks. When I ran out of the van, smoke was coming out of the grill. Like, unbelievable amount of smoke.
What'd you do?
I was trying to call the cops, or 911, trying to get a fireman there. I could barely talk. I was like in another world. My ears were ringing. It was like what they use as a flashbang. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. The cops use that to disorient somebody. That's what it was.
You were having pre-traumatic stress disorder. Or maybe in the midst of having a traumatic.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. So did you resolve it? Did anything happen? What happened of it?
Nothing. And the cops thought it was a Greek bomb because in Tarpon Springs, Greek kids make bombs that time of year, but it's never was resolved. It never happened again, and it was a scary moment.
That sounds pretty scary. And that is memorable. I'll agree with you with that. But on that note, that's memorable. But what do you think has been the hardest challenge you've ever faced?
Challenge. Well, I've done a lot of things in my life. I fixed the biggest computers in the world. I programmed those computers. I analyzed computers and data. I ski raced, rock climbed, ice climbed. I've done a lot of things. But I would have to say the biggest challenge was building this van.
Seriously, you're comparing building this van to ice climbing or face climbing a mountain? What name a mountain? Name a peak that you've climbed. You've faced.
I've climbed peaks in the Canadian Rockies, in Yosemite, many places around the world. I've climbed in the gunks, real hard climbs in the gunks. I've done.
Gunks? What's a gunk?
Oh, the gunks are in New Paltz. So I'm glad you brought that up.
New York. New Paltz, New York. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Many climbs, hard climbs. I've done a lot of hard things, but nothing. This van was the hardest. There's no doubt in my mind.
What was so hard about it?
Every job requires you to think out of the box. There's no in-the-box thinking with building a van. I never scribed before. I didn't use templates. Maybe I've used them a little bit, but everything's templating and scribing, and I never built a cabinet in my life until this. And figuring out all the electronics to put your solar system in, that was a lot of work. And even the little sink I have right here was a little bit of work, because I never did any plumbing.
Yeah. You say scribing, when most people say scribing, they think you're writing something down, like the scribes used to do. What do you mean by scribing?
When I say scribing, I say when a wall, you have to build something to match to a wall, almost like what they say when you match to a boat hull. But when you have to match to a wall that's not straight, you have to run something along that wall to give you the shape of the wall. And I use blocks, and I use quarter-inch plywood to do a lot of that, and it was pretty tricky.
And you do this without a blueprint?
No, there's no blueprints for this. There's nothing. You have to figure out how you do everything.
But so let's talk about how far back you had to design. You know, backwards design means plan in with the end in mind. What was your first thoughts when you envisioned what this would eventually look like? Because you have to have a vision for what it's going to look like at the end too, right?
What were my first thoughts?
Yeah.
Well, I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I never knew how I was going to put the walls to the metal. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if I was going to frame it, and then how am I going to put the cabinets to the walls? I didn't know how to do any of that. Wow. Just knowing what it looks like is the easy part. Mm-hmm. The hard part is figuring out how you're going to make it stick, because a house is easy. You frame it, and everything goes into the framing. It's a simple thing. This, it was totally different.
That seems like a real mental and physical challenge. I'm going to hit you with an emotional one. Do you ever get lonely?
Do I ever get lonely? Before I moved into this van, I lived in a townhouse, and I was lonelier in that townhouse than I will ever be in this van. I don't even think I was lonely one time in this van. I haven't even been homesick yet. I left New York in the beginning of December.
So how long do you plan on living in this van?
When I first built this van, I said, well, maybe I'll live in it for 6 months and then I'll sell it and I'll make my money back and make a little more. I'm not putting a number on it because I didn't even get anything done since I've been living in this van since mid-January. I haven't gotten anything done yet. I mean, I've spent time in Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina, but that's it.
You're just beginning this journey. That begs the question. You're on the highways, you pass exits, you pass a lot of fast food restaurants, and there's a lot of tasty food out there that's quick. How do you eat healthily with all that temptation around you?
Well, first of all,
and convenience.
I am trying to live in this van as inexpensively as possible.
Okay.
I know going out to eat on a continual basis will run me out of money fast.
True.
So what I do is, in the morning it's easy to make a healthy breakfast. I mean, I have eggs with turkey bacon, organic turkey bacon, maybe. Then I'll have some pancakes, and I don't eat the ones that have the bleach flour. I'll have a smoothie protein shake.
What do you put in a smoothie?
Spinach.
Whoa.
Strawberries, blueberries, a little bit of protein powder, almonds, seeds, almond milk, and then anything else I have that's healthy.
Wow.
And sometimes I have
list.
I have your favorite every now and then, Mark. I have oatmeal.
Oh, yeah.
And I try to rotate so I don't eat the same thing. It's almost like crop sharing, where you move your crop from place to place.
Right.
So that's one of the things that I do.
How do you cook eggs and pancakes in here?
I have a little stove, a Coleman stove,
that makes sense.
And skillet, and it's real easy. For dinner, I find the best thing I can do, and I do have a grill, a little portable fold-and-go grill from Coleman, but I like the best, I have a little crock pot, and I put sweet potatoes, peppers, carrots, other vegetables in there, and then maybe a couple pieces of chicken, and then sometimes I'll use a pork tenderloin on top, and that's the best. I mean, because I'm eating all good food, and maybe the pork would be the worst thing there, but and the chicken might be the worst thing.
Yeah. All right. Here's getting down to the nitty gritty. Do you ever get tired of cleaning up after yourself?
Well, I've been doing this for a long time, but you can see there's a few little tiny messes in this van right now. So maybe I'm not the tidiest, but I'm not the dirtiest either. And if you look at my sink, my sink looks like it's brand new.
You even made your bed.
Oh yeah, I always make my bed, and that's a hard bed to make back there. But I make my bed. I try to throw out the garbage daily, but there's not a real good place to throw it out here.
You look like you need to be a professional athlete just to climb into that bed. Oh, I see you got a little stool there. That's
yeah, without that stool, you would have to be
a high jumper.
Yeah.
Or play for the NBA. That's good. But you have actually, I'm looking around, you have used up every square inch of this space in this van. I have to hand it to you. Now, we live in an age where it seems like everybody has a dog. All right? So, obviously, the elephant in the room here, or the dog, or the non-dog in the room, is how come you don't have a canine traveling companion?
If I had a dog, it would be more for me than the dog getting benefit. Because the way I live my life and the things I do, many times I can't have the dog with me, and the dog will be confined to the van while I could be gone all day. That poor dog could be in the van when it's really hot outside, and I would be a horrible dog owner. I might even go to jail or something for it.
I could see it right now. I could see the headlines in the Washington Post.
I'd see me on TV saying, a dog owner leaves a dog in a van and dies. And
Now, let's talk about your greatest fear. What's your greatest fear on this journey?
Well, I already got in one jam, and I was way in the middle of the woods with no cell, almost out of gas, and I got stuck in sand, and I was all the way up to the bottom of my engine, and I was so scared, I didn't even take the time to do a video. I could have done a high-production video of me getting out of there. I wasn't calm enough to do that. I didn't know what was going to happen. So, getting stuck, getting in an accident, who knows what would happen? And my cabinets are in here really, really well. But who knows what would happen if I got in an accident?
True.
Stuff wouldn't all stay in one place.
So what do you do to help prevent you getting in an accident?
Well, every morning I get up, and I thank God for everything that I have. I thank God all the time for the house that I live in here. This is a good place. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for my health. And then I ask God to help other people. And then I ask God to help me and to protect me and to guide me to people who are good for me. And that I might be good for them.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
And keep me away from the people I shouldn't meet. That is one of the things. 'Cause
that's a big ask. But, hey, you know what?
And now, Mark, you know me from all the years that I'm not afraid to approach anybody.
No, you're not. You're not. You never met a stranger. All right, well, given that, response. So what would you say is the primary source of all of your acquired wisdom?
Well, I do have a lot of experience in my life.
Yeah, you do.
Because I was made to do stuff for my own self instead of paying people to do it. And I learned stuff, and I'm not afraid to try things, but I have to say I have about 40 years of Christianity that really helps me out.
That's a gift.
And really helps me out with wisdom and the decision making I need to do. And do I make all good decisions? No, but I do have a source.
So how does Christianity help you make good decisions?
My prayers and all the things, and by reading the Bible, and you follow that blueprint, it keeps you out of a lot of trouble.
Okay. All right. Well, a word from the wise. That's good. So, you got kids. You got grandkids. What kind of feedback did you get from them when they first heard of this wild idea you had to live in a van?
Well, my younger daughter, I called her immediately because the way it worked out, I just left her house and she asked me, would I want to travel? And don't I want to travel in life? So when I called my daughter, the younger one, she was psyched. She said, this is exactly what you need. You need to do this. And we both agreed not to tell my older daughter because we thought that her reaction to this wasn't going to be as positive. When I told my older daughter, I was surprised at her response. She said, Dad, you haven't been happy in a long time. This probably would be a good thing for you to do.
That's encouraging.
And then my granddaughters, they were probably a little bit psyched to have their grandfather going out on the road and living in a van. They thought it was a cool idea. And here's the thing with all of that. When we have time, we're going to have quality block time. And I think it'll be better than the times when we see each other all the time. So, and who knows how long I'm going to do this? I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you don't look like a grandfather, so, you know, that's a good start.
Oh, thanks, Mark.
Looking good. So, this is my final question for you. Let's wrap it up with this. What is the most significant piece of advice that you could give to our current high school and college students?
First of all, learn everything that you can. Learn everything that you can. Get a job. Learn how to work. Because that's where you learn many, many things. And get the kind of a job where you're going to learn something. And I'm not saying flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, and I'm not saying that's bad, but if you get that job flipping hamburgers at McDonald's, learn how the whole system works. So you could run that system. But I highly recommend getting involved in a construction trade, some kind of construction stuff. You learn to use your hands, which is very important in life, and your hands attached to your brain, and you learn to think out of the box.
Good advice. Good advice. A lot of businesses today say that the primary complaint they have about our students that graduate from schools in this country is that they do not know how to think on their feet. They basically tell their bosses, hey, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, bosses don't care about that. They could hire anybody to do that. They want people that know how to problem solve and think critically.
Yeah.
Good advice.
And if you do construction, you're going to learn how to think.
Right.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Or I think your suggestion is really powerful. Instead of just being an employee that comes to work on time, be somebody who's interested in how the whole business works. Because even if you don't plan on going into that business, you become familiar with systems and, you know, the most efficient and effective way to complete a task. And that's important.
Yep.
All right. Well, this has been fun. I've really enjoyed seeing you again after all these years. Just certainly can't wait to hear from you on some of the rest of your journey. Maybe I'll hook up with you someplace.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. And this was Mark's idea, so I'm glad he did it.
All right. Boom.